Hey everybody, it's Papa Duke's CRG Social Network Podcast. How y'all doing today? I hope everything is well today. I guess ICE is trying to break some records in killing civilians and American citizens. So we need to find out what is going on here. And as I was doing this expose on Greg Bovino, that's when the gentleman, Alex Pelly, I don't want to say his name wrong. Oh Lord, that would be so bad. Preddy. Alex Preddy. He was an ICU nurse that was murdered by ICE yesterday, and I got to tell you, this is getting out of hand. We've now had at least a dozen, if not 2 dozen, people killed by ICE that have not even been mentioned. A lot of them were Latinos and Black people, but now they're going after their own because of the racism and the ideology that's behind it. Because if they are not close to the white supremacist ideology, they're far removed from it. They are now targets for going there. So for me, it's like, okay, all right, you want to go there, you want to see this, and now we have this gentleman is passed away, and it's not good. It's not good at all. So I do want to be able to talk about some things that are very important. Yes. But right now, I just want to give a shout out to Sohan and Craig over at Silk Road NYC 166-30 Jamaica Avenue or Jamaica, Queens. I just want to give them a big shout out, let them know you have a great dispensary over there. Also, this is sponsored by Produce 420, Breed Spectrum CBD, Surfside, Wet Bod Distributors, Silk Road, and Jade Stone Cannabis Branding. Thank you so much for having us. But right now we're on a special, how can I say it? I'm currently doing a special on the federal democracy and separation of powers, part 2. And here we're talking about Greg Bovino. He has been, he is the Border Patrol Commander at Large. And everyone thinks he's the director of ICE, but he's not. He is like the commander, the field commander out there. And so Mr. Bovino has been very, very busy in terrorizing the American citizen. There's a man walking through Minneapolis right now who's become the symbol of everything rotten about federal immigration enforcement in America. Greg Bovino. He's the Border Patrol Commander at Large, and he's become a powerhouse public face of ICE-aligned street operations that look and feel like military occupation, especially under the modern #Trump era political playbook. If you've been watching the footage, you've seen the posture, confident, confrontational, and camera. You've heard the talking points about criminal, illegal aliens, and you watched a federal commander toss chemical munitions at civilians and then step to a microphone like it's just another day. This isn't rhetorical heat. It's the lived reality in January 2026. In the United States, where immigration enforcement is being used as a blank check for mass agents and chemical agents and constitutional shortcuts. And before anyone says this is just local drama, ask yourself, what happens when federal agents can run a major operation inside a city that doesn't consent to it, doesn't control it, and can't even get straight answers about how many armed agents are on the ground. That's the heart of the story here. And it's why it matters beyond Minneapolis, beyond Minnesota, and straight into the bigger fights about elections and midterms. Okay, so elections, midterms, and Congress, and who gets to define public safety in America? I really feel bad about Alex Petty and his family, and also Nicole Wood, Porter family, and many other families that are being harassed and terrorized by ICE and DHS and Homeland Security and the Trump administration. It is very sad to see a 5-year-old in the dead of winter outside being held by a bunch of white supremacists. No telling what happened. But because Minneapolis isn't the beginning of Bovino's story, it's the latest chapter in a career built on escalation, spectacle, and intimidation, including his leadership role during the 2025 raids in Chicago and Los Angeles, where the tactics that are now hitting Minnesota were tested and normalized. To keep it real, when you see that what looks like an occupation, people start thinking about bigger systems, politics, money, and influence. Folks are asking uncomfortable questions about who federal law enforcement is really answering to, how taxpayers are funding these surges, and what gets traded away in the name of order. Whether you're talking about APAC, globalization, or the push-pull between democratic socialism and the rising fear of fascism, the point is the same. Power concentrates when the public is scared. And scared people scared people are easier to control. I mean, they don't want to do anything. They're very complacent. They just kowtow, and just their knees are big underneath. Why the story is the cannabis community too. You see, so if you're part of the New York cannabis community, don't tune this out like it's someone else's problem. The same enforcement mindset that targets immigrants today can target quality of life compliance and illegal cannabis tomorrow, especially as legalization keeps expanding. But enforcement budgets and politics keep shifting. At the OG Social Network podcast, we spend a lot of time with the operators, advocates, and organizers who already know what over-policing feels like. Whether you're building a brand, pushing policy, or just trying to survive a confusing rollout, you've seen how quickly public safety can turn into pressure on the same communities every time. Mr. Bovino is like, he's like, I bet you he was this kid when he was in high school, was bullied a lot and got tough. And I don't know, but like this guy is definitely the supreme of the white racist. I'll tell you that right now. And to keep it real, when you see what looks like an occupation, people start thinking about bigger systems and the money, the influence. So where is this money coming from? You know what I'm saying? Who is buying who is spending the money to ensure that all this happens? Well, I believe it's the private prison systems. It's because the private prison systems have huge contracts with DHS to deal with the immigrants and any other people that they feel that are degenerate to their cause. It's something that we all really need to consider. We're next. That's why this conversation connects to our world. And cannabis activism in New York, women's cannabis in New York, hashtag cannabis entrepreneurship, you know what I'm saying? And the real life makeups where a community gets built. Even tourism, the tourism side, like wheat farms, that can be effective. Different issues, same playbook, same risk. Uh, Rights get treated like optional paperwork. Okay. Once we allow fascist ideologies and white supremacist ideologies set in, you can definitely start kicking your rights away, kissing your rights away. They're going to be gone. They're going to be gone. So, and we really need to be sure we understand this. So the man behind the badge, Greg Bovino was born in North Carolina, Italian immigrant parents. Let that sit in, please, for a second. The man helping drive one of the most aggressive anti-immigrant crackdowns in recent American history himself is the son of immigrants. He joined the U.S. Border Patrol in 1996, giving him close to 3 decades inside a system that's expanded its reach, its budget, its appetite for unchecked power. Over time, Bovino didn't just rise, he became a trailblazer for a very specific kind of leadership. The kind that treats local pushback as noise, treats courts as obstacles, and treats communities as territory. He's not a back office bureaucrat. He's on the ground. He's at the press conferences, he's in the footage. He's the guy who doesn't hide behind the statement. He steps into a frame and dares the public to stop it. So what's so cool about this guy is that he's making it easy for us to prosecute him when we're ready. So I appreciate that, my man. And his ideology, it's consistent and public. Bovino leans hard into the criminal, illegal, aliens framing because it's not just language, it's strategy. If you label a whole community as a threat, you could justify almost anything done to them. So Commander Bovino and his legacy from 1996 to Minneapolis has been how can I say it? It's been sus since he defends Operation Metro Surge during a press conference. So during a Fox 9 News conference, Bovino spoke directly against efforts to undermine ICE operations in Minnesota. His message was basically, this keeps going as long as we say so. Wow, that's not cooperation, that's occupation. So in 2025, he pulled the shit in Chicago and LA as a blueprint. To understand why Minneapolis feels like a federal takeover, you've got to look back at Bovino, at what Bovino helped normalize in 2025. In Chicago, reporting from major outlets described Bovino overseeing an aggressive crackdown that included heavily armed agents, controversial use of chemical weapons, and tactics that triggered legal and political backlash. You can find all this on CNN, on Chicago local news, Bovino in Chicago. Chicago wasn't just enforcement, it was a message to sanctuary jurisdictions. We can operate like an occupying force and we dare you to stop us. Now, you see that all these threats that they're making, somebody is gonna act on. And then there's going to be full-fledged problems. I'm hoping no one acts on the violence of it. We need to, I know it's hard to say it because if it happened to my kids, I'm sorry, I'm going to catch a case. But I really don't want us to lose our minds through violence because that's what they want us to do. You know, in Los Angeles, Bovino's profile expanded as these operations were marketed like campaign. High visibility stops, militarized staging, and the kind of media posture that makes enforcement look like entertainment. Y'all remember that last year. It's not accidental, it's the brand. What you're seeing in Minneapolis is that brand imported. Show of force, low transparency, high intimidation, public confrontations with local leaders, escalation when residents protest. Why? That's why Bovino matters. He's not just a name, he's a strategy. Operation Metro Surge, the numbers that they don't want you to see, is Bovino. Bovino is leading something called Operation Metro Surge, federal immigration enforcement initiative targeting Minnesota and Minnesota, all probably the rest of the nation. According to his own statements at C-SPAN news conference, federal authorities have arrested over 3,300 people under this operation. But here's what should make every Minneapolis resident's stomach drop. When asked how many federal agents are deployed in that state, Bovino wouldn't give an exact number. He'd only say there were several thousand. So you send a small army into a free state in a nation that is free, and this is where we're going. Several thousand federal agents in one state with minimal transparency, even less accountability, and I can guarantee you that there have been crimes committed, people assaulted, we've already had deaths, we've already had murders. I can tell you these people are pushing it. You know what I'm saying? They're pushing it. You know, with what several thousand looks like on a normal Tuesday is kind of large. Numbers can feel abstract until you imagine the street level reality, though. A surge like that means you can have multiple teams work the same neighborhood on rotating shifts, unmarked vehicles doing loops around schools, clinics, and transit hubs, heavily equipped agents showing up like it's a high-risk raid, even when it's a routine stop. Residents who don't know what agency they're dealing with, what rules apply, or where complaints even go. And you are able to sue the government for this. If you were arrested as a United States citizen and they let you go, you can go right ahead, get a lawyer, and sue the hell out of them. Okay, you definitely want to do that. You can really do that, you know, and I think you should, and everyone that has gone through that terror, definitely the government should start signing some checks. And that uncertainty is the point, and it creates compliance issues and confusion everywhere. This is where the tactic turns into a message. We're everywhere and you can't stop us. It's psychological pressure, not just enforcement. The tactics, why it feels like occupation, even when they deny it. People call it occupation because the behavior matches the pattern. Visibility as intimidation, tactic gear, long guns, and aggressive posture, speed, quick snatches, fast transportation, limited public info, opacity, no clear chain of accountability for residents, media theater, press conferences that sound like campaign rallies, punishment for resistance, gas, arrest, and escalation when the public shows up. Bovino isn't hiding from the cameras, by the way. That matters. A lot of commanders avoid footage because footage creates accountability. Bovino steps into the frame because the frame is part of the operation. It tells supporters we're tough, and it tells targets don't even try. Well, you're not tough. You're a bunch of big fucking pussies. And as far as I'm concerned, please don't. I'm gonna keep my ass in the house because I will catch a case. Sanctuary city police versus federal and run. Here's where it gets bigger than Minnesota. Sanctuary policies. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Sanctuary city policies versus the federal and run. Here's where it gets bigger than Minnesota. Sanctuary policies exist because cities decide we're not going to turn local services into a deportation pipeline. It's about public trust. People report crimes, go to school meetings, show up to court, get medical help, and cooperation with investigations when they don't think it'll trigger immigration consequences. When federal agencies bypass that with a massive footprint, they aren't just enforcing immigration law, they're effectively rewriting local policy on the ground. Okay, let me say that again. When federal agencies bypass that with a massive footprint, they aren't just enforcing immigration law, they're effectively rewriting local policy on the ground. That's why this becomes a political fight tied with hashtags politics, hashtag religion, hashtag midterms. It's about who sets the rules in your neighborhood. Okay, so you have an Italian immigrant, Italian American who come from immigrants, born in North Carolina, gonna come to your city and tell you how to run it and how to do it. Okay, it's about who sets the rules in your neighborhood. The people who live there and vote there, or federal agencies operating with national political goals. And let's not ignore the cost side. Search operation isn't free. You're talking overtime, logistics, gear, vehicles, detention, transport, and the downstream impacts on ports and hospitals. That's taxpayers paying for a strategy that local leaders are often telling you they didn't ask for. So your tax dollars are paying for this terror, just so you know. All right, and for this guy's salary. All right. When things go wrong, Bovino doesn't slow down. He redirects blame. Okay. On January 22nd, 2026, he publicly criticized the Minneapolis Police Department for not assisting federal agents during the protest. The MPD fired back, saying they had no record of a request from federal agents for assistance that day. That was my birthday. They also made clear that the presence of protesters alone is not sufficient reason for MPD to respond where ICE actively is occurring. The exchange isn't just petty politics, it's a power move. If federal commanders can publicly shame local departments into cooperation, they can turn local agencies into unwilling partners or make them look soft to the public when they refuse. Either way, it pressures the system. All right, so if there are, say, about 8,000, let's just say there's 8,000 people, and I mean 8,000 ICE, the surrounding Minneapolis area cannot at all cover that. They don't have that many police. So it is kind of sad that they are outnumbered and can't protect their communities. So Mr. Bovino here is definitely, you guys raised him. His mama, his daddy, and white supremacy is not coming back to hit you hard. Wow. We as people of color, we've seen it coming, always saw it coming. Y'all never listen. So that's why local institutions are drawing a line in the matter, drawing a line that matters. So it's one of the last breaks left when the federal machine is already rolling. So here's the core conflict Bovino keeps trying to bulldoze. Local sovereignty versus an expanding federal enforcement. That's crazy, y'all. That's crazy. Local governments are supposed to control local policy priorities. Cities and states have their authority to decide how they use resources, how they build trust with residents, and whether they participate in federal immigration dragnets. Bovino's posture will do it anyway and will do it in your streets. Turns that relationship upside down. And then there's the Fourth Amendment, the part of the Constitution that's supposed to protect all of us from unreasonable searches and seizures. That's been thrown out the window for white people. And for us, it didn't matter, but for y'all, it's thrown out the window now. Y'all need to get it together. The operation narrative isn't just about vibes, it's about weather. People are being stopped without clear probable cause. Arrests are being made without meaningful transparency about warrants. Tactical force is being used to chill constitutional protected protests. Federal agents are acting as if local constraints simply don't apply. If the federal government can flood a city with several thousand agents and run operations in a way that locals can't oversee, can't predict, and can't meaningfully limit, then occupation stops being a metaphor and starts being a diagnosis. The psychological impact when life gets smaller. Here's the part people skip. Federal occupation doesn't only violate rights in a courtroom sense. It changes how an entire city moves. It creates a background level of stress that doesn't turn off, not just during a protest and not just when raids happen, all week. That shows up as parents not letting kids walk to the park because a routine sweep can turn into a chaos fast. Workers not reporting wage theft or abuse because law enforcement presence now feels like a deportation pipeline. Victims not calling 911 because they don't trust who will show up or what they'll ask before they help. Activists organizing less in public because the punishment for speaking out becomes chemical agents and arrest. And this isn't just emotional. Chronic stress changes behavior. It affects health. It impacts school performance. It isolates elders. It reduces community participation. That's what a constitutional violation looks like in real life. It's not only rights were infringed, its life got smaller. And the political signal enforcement as campaign content. So for all of us, when an operation gets branded and defended at press conferences, it starts to function like a campaign content. You can feel the overlap with politics, Congress, and elections, especially when immigration enforcement is used as a wedge issue. It also creates a public permission structure if the public accepts militarized presence in one approved target community. It becomes easy to justify similar tactics everywhere. That's where fears about fascism aren't just internet talk. They're warning normalization, okay? They're warning. You don't have to agree on immigration policy to see the danger in the model where federal power expands, making communities afraid. There's a constitutional squeeze on the First, Fourth, and the 10th Amendment energy. Okay, when residents protest and the protest is chemical weapons and mass intimidation, you're not just in Fourth Amendment territory, you're flirting with a direct assault on the First Amendment, speech and assembly, Fourth Amendment, search and seizure, and the spirit of the 10th Amendment. States' ability to decide how they govern locally. This matters because the federal government keeps selling this as just immigration, but the tactics are about control. Once a city accepts the idea that federal agents can run a parallel policing system, unaccountable to the people living there, the legal line doesn't just blur, it disappears. Can't have that. That's why residents are resisting. This is where it gets truly disturbing because it's not just about dispersing a crowd, it's about what they dispersed it with. The green gas at Mueller Park. According to a Mother Jones investigation, Bovino's agents deployed a noxious green chemical agent on protesters at Mueller Park. Witnesses described it as unlike anything they'd seen before, a thick green cloud that caused immediate respiratory distress. So now we're up here throwing gas at people. we are now at war with citizens of this state, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, I don't get it. You know, it's really, really bad at this point to be able to see this and make it happen and see what's happening with the I would say with the attack on American citizens, and it's not really fun. It's not fun. It's not normal. This is insane to see this. When federal government can drop that kind of enforcement footprint into one city, it changes the balance of power in at least 5 ways. Public policing without consent. Local voters can elect a mayor and city council with specific public safety priorities, but a surge lets federal agencies override those priorities in practice. That doesn't just reduce cooperation, it replaces the local strategy with the federal one. Accountability gets diluted on purpose. If residents don't know whether they're dealing with CPB or ICE or another federal task force partner, complaint channels get messy fast. That confusion protects the operation, and if the local oversight bodies can't compel testimony or documentation with federal teams, oversight becomes press release value. Local resources get indirectly commandeered. Even if the city doesn't cooperate, the surge still strains local systems. Hospitals treat exposure, injuries, public defenders and courts handle related cases. Schools manage fear and absenteeism, and local agencies field calls they didn't create. That's local government absorbing costs while the feds call the shots again on the public dime. Fourth Amendment gray zone gets wider. A city packed with agents increases the number of stops, encounters, and detentions. Even if many are lawful on paper, volume itself increases error. Abuse, sloppy standards, more encounters means more chances for constitutional searches, seizures, and wrongful arrests, especially when targets are scared to challenge it. Speech gets chilled through environment, not bans. You don't even have to outlaw protest to suppress it. A militarized posture, helmets, rifles, chemicals, agents, aggressive crowd tactics can make people decide it's safer to stay home. That's a real world squeeze on the First Amendment, built through intimidation rather than legislation. And here's the bigger point. Once a city accepts that branded federal operation can function like a parallel policing system, it's easier to export that model to other issues. Today it's immigration, tomorrow it's anti-riot, next week is drug enforcement. And if you're in the New York cannabis community, you already know how fast enforcement narrates can pivot, especially when politics, elections, and midterms are in the background. Okay? So yeah, this isn't just a local incident, it's a preview of what's happened when federal power expands by stepping around local democratic control. And that should worry anybody who cares about how a free society is supposed to work. When a federal operation is large enough to bring several thousand agents into a city and it ends in repeated shootings, assaults, even sexual assaults, you're not just talking about one bad moment. You're talking about a system that's behaving like it has permission to suspend normal rules. This was the third shooting involving agents since Operation Metro Surge began. 3 shootings in a matter of weeks. How many more before anyone is held accountable? Governor Tim Walz called the shooting sickening and demanded an end to this occupation. He's right. This has gone far beyond immigration enforcement. This is a state-sponsored violence aimed at breaking a community's will because of the congresswoman they have there and their liberal ideologies that go against the Midwest. You know, it's one of the blue states in the Midwest, you know. And from a constitutional point of view, it's not just use force, it's what happens when the public can't verify the basis for stops and arrests. Lethal force is used without immediate, credible transparency. Protest is met with chemical agents to discourage scrutiny. Local leadership is publicly dismissed as irrelevant. That combination is how rights die, not all at once, but through repetition. Mayor Frey to Trump is letting my man know to please act like a leader, right? Yeah, right. And it's not just the governor saying it. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey has also become clear that the city isn't going to roll over. Side note, there was a Somali running against Frey for Minneapolis mayor. And I know that guy would have folded if they would have gone in hard if he became mayor. So maybe a godsend that this white guy, Jacob Frey, became mayor as opposed to the Somali who would have represented his people as well. But that's how it is. In recent remarks directed at Trump, Frey told him to act like a leader, a front call out that calls to that propaganda and gets to the point. Leadership doesn't look like flooding a city with federal agents, escalating conflict, and then pretending the chaos proves you were right to show up. For Minneapolis residents watching their streets turn into a staging ground, that framing matters because the federal government keeps trying to sell this order, but what they're creating looks more like fear. Okay, so the facts, they just don't support the narrative. The administration wants you to believe that what has been going on is the people, and this is about public safety. So they want you to think about this about public safety, which is bullshit. About removing criminals, about protecting American communities. So, but the fact tell a different story. You know, Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, is dead under circumstances that remain murky at best. But it's not murky. He didn't have a weapon in his hand. He had a camera in his hand. His hand was up. He was helping a woman. She got sprayed. She was knocked down. He was knocked down. They found his weapon. They shot him. Toxic chemical agents have been employed against peaceful protesters, including exposures tied to concerns about potassium perchlorate, lead, and chromium, per Mother Jones. No judicial warrants have been presented for many of these operations, none whatsoever. Local officials, including the governor and mayor, having publicly condemned ICE and their operations. It's bad. The Minneapolis Police Department has refused to cooperate, citing lack of formal requests and constitutional concerns. This isn't law enforcement. This is intimidation. This is the federal government using military-style tactics against its own residents because they dare to dissent. Okay, Chicago has a $10,000 bond trial, a symptom of desperation, not crime. You know, if you want to understand how deep the anger runs and how unsafe these tactics make everyone, just look at Chicago. In January 2026, a Chicago man went to trial over allegations tied to circulating a $10,000 bond on Bovino's life. A jury ultimately found him not guilty. That's pretty cool. Let's be clear. Nobody should be putting bounties on anyone's head. no violence. Uh, we shouldn't be going after each other. We should defend ourselves, protect ourselves, but we shouldn't actively be going out to seek another person's death. We're not them, okay? We're not them. But that trial is still a warning sign. It's not proof that communities are lawless. It's proof of desperation that can happen when people feel trapped between a federal machine that won't listen and a local system that can't stop it. When enforcement becomes occupation, the temperature rises and the risk of tragedy multiplies on all sides. Bovino's style of leadership doesn't cool anything down. It dares the public to explode and then uses the explosion as justification for more force. So we need to be careful out there. A call for unity and accountability. I'm not here to tell you what to think, but I'm here to ask you to think clearly about what's going on and what's happening in Minneapolis right now. Greg Bovino is the son of immigrants leading a war on immigrants. Let me say that again. Greg Bovino is the son of immigrants leading a war on immigrants. He's a federal official who's been captured on video throwing ice at protesters and overseeing operations that have resulted in civilian deaths. He defies local leaders and operates like he's untouchable. And that's exactly why this should worry all of us. No matter where you stand on the immigration policy, because today it's Minneapolis, tomorrow it could be your city, your neighborhood, and your community. All right. So if you're in the New York cannabis space, especially if you're Black, brown, immigrant, or a woman-led operator, you already know what over-police feels like. So welcome to the club, White America. Even as legalization grows, the culture and the businesses are still dealing with it. Aggressive enforcement in certain neighborhoods, uneven licensing outcomes, compliance being used as a weapon against small operators, surveillance and harassment that falls hardest on marginalized communities. So when you see a federal operation like Metro Surge being run with chemical munitions and mass arrests and murky use of force narratives, you should hear the warning loud and clear. The same machinery can be pointed anywhere and everywhere. Today it's immigrants, tomorrow it's public safety, next week it's quality of life, then it's illegal cannabis enforcement. If federal agencies can treat a major city, U.S. city, like a training ground, shrugging off local leadership and normal constitutional boundaries, then marginalized professionals in emerging industries like cannabis are at risk of getting squeezed again. Okay, so not because cannabis is the same as immigration, but because the playbook is the same. Label a group as a problem, flood the area with enforcement, treat civil rights like optional paperwork, and criminalize the community's response. That's why this is the direct threat to our community. Normalize the idea that rights are negotiable when the target is politically convenient. Governor Walz is right. This occupation needs to end. So what do we do? Demand independent investigations into shootings and chemical agent deployment. Demand transparency on warrants, arrest criteria, and use of force rules. Support local and national groups fighting for immigrant rights and constitutional protections. Keep showing up peacefully, consistently, and loudly for neighbors being targeted. In New York, push cannabis leadership to publicly oppose militarized enforcement models that always end up hitting our people first. And if you're part of the cannabis community, like we are at the OG Social Network podcast, don't treat this like someone else's issue. Communities of color have seen enforcement dressed up as public safety for generations. This is the same story new uniform. They want you exhausted. They want you divided. Don't give that to them. So the key takeaways, all right, is Greg Bovino, Border Patrol Commander at Large, is leading Operation Metro Surge in Minneapolis. Okay. And this 2025 Chicago and Los Angeles race helped normalize the exact escalation we're seeing right now. Federal agents under his command have been involved in 3 shootings so far this year and deployed chemical agents tied to toxicity concerns, including potassium, perchlorate, lead, and chromium. And I can guarantee you, the fatal shooting of Alex Peretti, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, raises urgent questions about use of force and accountability. And let it be clear that there were more than 3 people that have been murdered, besides Keith Porter, Renee, Olga, and Alex Peretti. That we don't even know, and not counting the women that were assaulted, sexually assaulted as well, who we've seen on camp. The federal occupation narratives is rooted in real tensions between local sovereignty and the Fourth Amendment and white supremacy. The 10,000 bounty trial in Chicago shows how desperation grows when communities feel cornered. Mayor Jacob Frey has told Trump to act like a leader, rejecting intimidation politics. So you all need to stay informed and stay engaged, stay united. Share this piece with someone who still thinks it can happen here. Support local immigrant rights organizers doing direct work in Minnesota. And tap into the OG Social Network podcast at theogsocialnetwork.com, because we're going to keep naming what this is. We're going to keep uplifting people fighting back. So I just want to say, again, thank you so much for your time today. I stayed on a little longer than I should have. I apologize about that. This was something that really blows my mind because, I kind of, when I was younger, you would never expect for this to happen. You know what I mean? You would never, ever think that this would happen this way. But I guess chickens are coming home to roost. 2016 gave them courage. And Biden, during Biden's administration, well, actually, it all kicked off when Obama was elected. So now we're at a point where, it's white supremacy is coming out. It's out there. It's out there, y'all. And y'all need to step up. Y'all need to step up. I'm serious. Let me take this quick commercial break. Proteus 420. Be right back.
At Proteus 420, they provide high-quality services and educational resources to support your growth and help you thrive in the cannabis community. Efficient inventory management ensures you maintain a reliable product supply and avoid stock shortages. Their point-of-sale service tracks sales activity, helping you identify best sellers, top employees, and valuable customers. Stay compliant with built-in reporting, alerting you to the latest state and local regulations. With payment processing, accept payments seamlessly across various methods, including cash and debit. Their customer relation management system builds loyalty, ensuring tailored offerings for repeat business. Proteus 420, empowering your cannabis business for success.
All righty, y'all. I want to give a shout out. The Silk Road over there, 166-30, Jamaica Avenue. God bless him, Sohan, Trey, and the great people over there servicing that community. Again, I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. This has been a really weird time. I started like 40 minutes late, so sorry for all of you that may have been waiting. Actually, to tell you the truth, I was taking a nap, and that snow out there. Wow, weather's been amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful winter snowstorm. And of course, Barchester was trying to get all the snow up, and it just kept coming back, coming back. So they gave up. But again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me. We do have my GoFundMe is kicking off. So please, need your help. GoFundMe. We're trying to reach 50,000 in 6 months to be able to have the operations run smoothly and merch operations, contractors, consultants, gotta pay for those. And also, I need a little bit too. So, but thank you all so much for coming and or for viewing. For those of you that viewed, sorry, I was not on the live on IG, so I'll make sure I post on IG as well. Again, peace and love. Thank you so much. This is Papa Dukes of the OG Social Network Podcast, and I am out. Again, help me with the GoFundMe. We have so much going on. I have so much to do. Oh, and thank you so much, Sohan, for hosting the podcast Thursday on my birthday. Thank you, Lola and Bastanato and Megan's O'Malley for attending the podcast. Lewis Webba, thanks for showing up. Appreciate you, brother. And your old lady's beautiful. God bless. Thank you. God bless you both. Be at peace. We'll talk soon. All right. This is Pop G. Pop OG. Remember to relax, relate, and loose.